picture a misty dawn rolling over the pine tops of Cannock Chase, the kind of morning where silence feels heavy enough to press against your ribs. You walk the narrow track, birds waking overhead, breath clouding in the chill. It seems impossible that this hush once hid a predator. Yet between 1965 and 1967, 3 little girls vanished from ordinary Midlands streets and ended their bright, unfinished journeys in these woods. Their names were Margaret Reynolds, Diana Tift, and Christine Darby. Their stories became a warning whispered from one generation of Staffordshire parents to the next. Never let the children wander far, because the chase remembers. Today, you and I are retracing those heartbreaking miles, not to linger on horror, but to ask questions that still flicker like torchlight across the undergrowth. Who was the killer? Was the man who died in prison truly the monster? Or did the truth slip through the branches and get away? First, step back with me to post-war Britain. The austerity years are fading, the Beatles are climbing the charts, and suburban life offers the promise of upward mobility. Children roam cul-de-sacs on bicycles, knock for friends without arranging anything in advance, and play hopscotch under the flicker of orange sodium lamps. Stranger danger is not yet a household phrase, and locking the front door feels rude. In Walsall and Wolverhampton, Margaret and Diana, both aged 10, walked to school along bustling pavements lined with fish and chip shops and corner newsagents. Nobody imagined the danger idling at the curb. It came in the shape of a pale blue Austin A55 Cambridge, its driver smiling behind thick horn-rimmed glasses. The car looked ordinary, reliable, the sort of motor your uncle might boast about on a Sunday drive. That apparent normality would become the predator's camouflage, turning trust itself into a weapon. On the 1st of December 1964, Margaret Reynolds left her family home, a satchel swinging against her wool coat, and vanished before the first lesson of the day. Less than 2 hours later, Diana Tift disappeared along almost the same route. 2 girls gone within a mile, yet police initially treated the cases separately, assuming runaways or simple miscommunication. The winter days crawled by. Parents clustered around transistor radios for updates that never arrived. It took 4 long months before walkers on Cannock Chase stumbled across a shallow hollow beneath fallen fir needles. The girls lay together, as though still holding hands for courage. The woodland floor could not tell detectives how they had travelled from city streets to countryside isolation, but tire impressions suggested a single vehicle. Reporters coined the phrase Midlands Monster, splashing it across front pages that sold out by noon. Fear settled like frost on every classroom window. Investigators leaned on emerging forensic science, yet still relied heavily on shoe-leather detective work. Officers mapped every Austin A55 registered within 50 miles, knocking on doors, peering under tarpaulins in back gardens, comparing tyre treads with plaster casts lifted from the chase. One name kept resurfacing: Raymond Morris, a 35-year-old engineer from Walsall with a polished car and a reputation for insistent, sometimes inappropriate, interest in local children. Witnesses remembered him offering lifts, handing out coins for sweets, even driving slowly behind primary school groups. However, no single statement felt conclusive, and Morris deflected suspicion with calm politeness. The inquiry dragged on, and the public appetite for progress turned resentful. Then, in August 1967, 7-year-old Christine Darby disappeared while playing near her grandmother's house in Camden Street, Wolverhampton. The kidnapping shattered any illusion that the predator had moved on or lost his appetite. Police roadblocks sprang up within minutes, but Morris again slipped through. 3 days later, a Royal Air Force helicopter crew spotted Christine's body in bracken near Manstey Gully on the Chase. The scene echoed the earlier burials, yet offered one new sliver of hope. A motorcyclist had seen a blue car speeding away, registration partially remembered. Officers cross-referenced his fractured digits with their long list and landed straight back on Raymond Morris. This time, they found negatives in his attic, images of young girls bound and gagged. Shock hardened into resolve. When detectives laid the pictures on the interview table, Morris said nothing for 17 minutes, staring as though at some distant horizon. Eventually, he murmured, "You can prove nothing." A jury disagreed. In February 1969, after a sensational trial at Stafford Crown Court, Morris received life imprisonment for Christine's murder. The other 2 killings were left on file. At first, the Midlands exhaled. Children were walked to school again, doors unlocked by lunchtime. Journalists packed up, headlines faded. Yet in smoky pubs and factory break rooms, doubts fermented. Why was Morris convicted only for the final case if the evidence supposedly linked all 3? Why did none of the surviving photographs show the known victims? The Austin, once touted as the smoking gun, was found to have tyres different from the plaster casts. Even the vital registration number praised in court turned out to match multiple vehicles that afternoon. Defense lawyers filed appeals, each rejected, but the questions outlived the paperwork. When Morris died in Durham prison in 2013, some called it the closing of a terrible chapter. Others muttered that a chapter cannot close if it was never written correctly in the first place. And so the chase kept its uneasy half-silence. Enter the 21st century and the persistence of forensic innovation. In an archive locker at Staffordshire Police Headquarters sits a sealed evidence box containing the girl's clothing, hair slides, and tiny, heartbreaking shoes. For years, scientists said the material was too degraded for meaningful analysis. Yet rapid DNA extraction techniques have rewritten that rulebook. In 2016, a pilot test recovered partial male profiles from fibre samples taken off Christine's socks. The profile did not match Morris, whose genetic fingerprint is on file. Was contamination to blame? Could the murderer have been an accomplice, or an altogether different man? Funding hurdles stalled further testing, but a new consortium led by the University of Central Lancashire plans to deploy next-generation sequencing on every preserved exhibit. You might wonder whether the community really wants answers after so long. The families say yes, because certainty is a right, not a luxury. The forest itself has become part memorial, part living crime scene. Weekend hikers pause at the stone erected near the discovery sites, shocked to realize such tranquil beauty once masked brutality. Some visitors leave teddy bears. Others, academic researchers, measure soil acidity and trace metal deposits, hoping to map historic disposal patterns. Meanwhile, documentaries and podcasts resurrect the case every few years, each promising the final word that never arrives. Does this constant retelling honor the victims or exploit them? Perhaps the answer depends on intent. When storytelling becomes an engine for renewed investigation and prevents complacency, it serves justice. When it merely stokes sensationalism, it can feel like another violation. You, the listener, hold power here. By demanding evidence over gossip, context over shock factor, you shape how future generations perceive both Morris and any alternate suspects that modern science may reveal. So where does that leave us tonight, standing on the crunchy path as dusk lowers between the trees? The facts are fixed. 3 little girls, 1 man convicted, a community scarred. Yet beneath those facts flows a river of unresolved possibility. If new DNA profiles emerge, the Crown Prosecution Service must weigh a posthumous pardon for Morris, or perhaps prepare for the unthinkable, an entirely new suspect still living in quiet anonymity. Local police chiefs, mindful of earlier missteps, have pledged transparency, releasing redacted case files online for citizen sleuths to pore over. Imagine the relief if a definitive answer could lift the decades of whispered speculation. Imagine the heartbreak if that answer proves forever out of reach. Either way, the forest will keep breathing, indifferent yet eternally linked to the children whose laughter it briefly muffled. Before we leave the chase and head back toward the glow of streetlights, carry this with you. Justice is not a single gavel strike. It is a long echo that can take decades to fade. Communities heal when questions receive honest, evidence-based answers, and when victims' names are spoken with care instead of curiosity. If new science clears Morris, it does not rewrite the past. It reminds us that certainty earned too easily is often counterfeit. If science confirms his guilt beyond dispute, the same lesson applies. Diligent work matters, shortcuts betray everyone. So the next time a news alert pops up about an old case reopened, remember Cannock Chase. Remember Margaret, Diana, and Christine. Remember that behind every headline sits a family still waiting for the phone to ring. And remember that you have a role, small, in insisting their wait is not in vain.